Partner of the Year, and just want to give you an overview of some of the product offerings that we have. So we're not just solely focused on Winshuttle, although those are part of our repertoire of products. We do support business process in general, and some of the tools that we use to do that are dashboards. We have imaging tools to help do OCR, optical character recognition of documents, to try to eliminate paper processes as well. So while Winshuttle is a big part of what we do, it's not the only thing. Our models, business process improvement and optimization as a whole, and we have a number of tools in our toolbox that we use with our customers to help implement those improvements. One of the things that we do offer for our Winshuttle Foundation customers is a dashboard tool. So this dashboard looks directly at your Winshuttle form and workflow process data. So you're spending the money and the effort to automate your process. This dashboard helps give you insight into how your processes are doing, who's late, who's on time, how long are things taking, where are your bottlenecks. So it's an important add-on. This is our Process BI offering that's available through Clear Process Solutions, and it's a plug-and-play type of application. So if you're interested in something like that, feel free to contact us. And lastly, before we get started, I want to talk to you a little bit about Solution Care. The WEBtips is brought to you as a Solution Care subset. So with our Solution Care offering, we not only support some of the same things that Winshuttle does with the maintenance. So you have the 3 items that you're getting with your Winshuttle maintenance here, these 3 little check boxes, but CPS Solution Care helps support many other things. Again, not just Winshuttle, helps SharePoint, helps do project work, helps scope out new projects that you might want to be working on as well. So that's something, it's a month-to-month block offer support, so if you're interested, give us a holler. All right, so let's get going on to WEBtips. So if this is the first time you're joining us for WEBtips is meant to be a short burst of information to keep you engaged in the Winshuttle community. On the odd number of months, I guess you could say every other month, on the odd months, we focus on desktop tools, so Winshuttle Studio, that's transaction and query, and on the even months, we focus on the forms and workflow capabilities with the rest of the foundation product. So we try to keep them to around a half hour, showing you tips and tricks for things that we've done recently and things that we're learning with the projects we're working on. Again, my name is Lance Yoder. I've been working for Clear Process for about 3 years, and prior to that, I was a Winshuttle user myself as a customer for about 7 years. So I've been using the tools for a while. My primary focus in life has been business process improvement, so it fits nicely here at Clear Process Solutions with my skill set. So let's go ahead and get started for what we're going to be looking at today within the September WEBtips topics. So we're not gonna do any tips or tricks, if you will, for the existing products, but we are going to take a look at Studio version 11. So the first version, version 11.0 that's out there right now, is available for those that are using Connect. So if you're one of the companies out there that are using Central, or what they've rebranded as the governance module, you're not able to use this tool yet until 11.1. But I do want to give you a sneak peek here, if you're not using it already, what Studio 11 looks like from a developer's perspective. So on that line of thought here, I'm going to go ahead and launch a quick poll to see how many people are using version 11 at this time. So I'm going to go ahead and launch this poll. Hopefully it should show up there. So if you want to take a quick second to answer whether you're using the Studio version 11 this time or not, and then we'll go ahead and wait just a second while everyone gets their vote in here. All right, let's see. We're going to close the poll, and if I hit the right button, I should be able to share the results. Okay, so it looks like about 2/3 of the folks are not using Studio at this time, so this will be a good demonstration of what Studio 11 is all about. And it looks like a few people are using it, so hopefully this isn't repeat for you, but we'll go along and take a look at some of the features as well. All right, so let's take a look here at version 11. I'm just going to bring it up. I've already launched the tool, so the Studio version 11 is a unified or a single development platform. So gone are the days of installing your developer tools and you have transaction as one piece of software and query as another piece of software and direct as another piece of software. It's all developed within one platform. So it's Winshuttle Studio, and if after you installed it, if I can find my desktop here with all my mess that I have going on, the Studio icon, it looks, it says Winshuttle Studio. So no more transaction, query, and direct. It's just called Winshuttle Studio. All right, so once you open up Winshuttle Studio version 11, it looks a little bit more like the other Office products that you're used to using. So you have a file, you have a ribbon menu up at the top. Once you hit file, you get all the options on the left, and you have different options across the top in the ribbon menu. So the first thing that pops up is new. All right, and you might have some recents. If you have recent files that are available, you might see those here as well. But we're just going to go ahead and create a new transaction script. So there's not too many new features of the tool itself, not a lot of new recording features, if you will, but just this purpose is to go through the look and feel so you can get an idea of what you're going to be able to access once version 11 comes out. So if you're using Connect right now to manage your licensing, you're already able to go download this version of a Studio. If you're a Foundation user and you're using the Central or the Governance module, you're going to have to wait for another month or so until 11.1 comes out. But that's the only difference between those versions is the ability to use Central or Connect. All right, so we're going to pick what we're going to do here. We're just going to create a transaction script. So once you hover over and select the icon that you want, these are the options down here. Now for transaction, you can only create a recording because that's what the tool is meant to do. So we're going to go ahead and create a recording by selecting that. And we're going to get prompted to log into SAP. I've already logged in during a little test. And you enter your T code here that you're going to do. We're just going to do a quick MM02, nothing fancy. Really just want to show you how the tool works. So if you wanted to change your recording mode, and version 10, 10.7 or previous versions, you had a little pop-up that came up that said, hey, pick your recording mode. Well, and then you pick your recording mode, whether it's batch, non-batch, GUI scripting, function module, all that stuff. So they've sort of renamed the recording modes a little bit. So standard is the one you're going to use most of the time, and that's really the non-batch input modes combined with the function module. So now that's just called standard. So you're probably going to be using the standard mode. In some cases, if you have certain T codes where you need batch input, or those rare cases where you need GUI scripting, they're still available, but you're not going to get a pop-up anymore. So you see it here. Standard is going to be the default mode, and you can select your mapping right at the beginning, or maybe you already have a data file that you have data filled in and so on. So if you remember from the mapping perspective, you had to indicate as a separate step. Step 1 was record, step 2 was map. So now they're combining all of these things sort of at the beginning. All right, so we've selected our options. I'm going to use a new data template, and we're going to go ahead and start the recording. Okay, so something new, which I really like in this version, as Winshuttle is keeping you more up to date on what the heck's going on. So sometimes you hit a button, it's like, all right, is it connecting to SAP or what? What's it doing? And out of nowhere, then you get this SAP window that pops up. So has done a better job in this version of showing you what's going on. So we'll just go ahead and do a quick recording here. I'm just going to pick basic material, and we will move on from here. Okay, so let me apply, I'm just going to change the description here real quick and maybe a few fields. We'll say new, and we'll update the weight. So do gross weight 24, net weight 23, and why not throw in a volume of 21, and then we'll hit save. So you can see in the background it still says recording in progress, and it hasn't fallen asleep on you. It's still thinking. Got the bar that's scrolling. We're going to go ahead and hit save here. And this was where you would normally see the SAP screen go away, and then this moment of unknown, what's going on. Is it thinking? Did it pause? So again, Winshuttle is going to do a little bit better of a job keeping you in the loop of what's going on after you saved here. So it's still trying to save my transaction in SAP. So we'll just give it 1 second while the screens refresh. All right, well, I think I paid my internet bill for today. Not sure why it's taking a little bit longer here than normal for SAP to save, but we will hold tight while it does that. Okay, there we go. So now you can see the window in the background change from recording in progress while the SAP window was still open. Now it said recording complete, compiling script. Again, this is where you just have that blank time in between. Okay, well, my SAP window's gone, but Winshuttle isn't responding. Did I lose it? So now it's keeping you up to date on what's going on, so you know that you haven't gone into a not responding mode and try to restart and all that kind of stuff. So after it finishes the mapping, we will get into what it looks like to complete the mapping process. So again, we have these new menu ribbons up here at the top. So File, if you wanted to do a new, you can hit New, but we're going to go to the map. So View gives you an idea of what do you want to see. Do you want to see the properties? So here are the properties. So if I select the Properties button, I don't see the properties. If I want to see the data set, this is the data. Select the data set. So I really have a little bit more control over what I want to see on the screen. But you still have your two basic, or your two mapping modes. You have your basic view and you still have your expert view. The normal screen header, if you will, used to be blue. So in the old transaction tool, the screen header was blue. The words were a little tinier, spread out a little bit more. So here the headers are green, but you still have the same types of features. So you could hide the system fields. You can show all the disabled fields if you want to see everything. So you still have those options to view. They used to be under the filters menu, but now all of those options are under the view. Let's go ahead and go to the mapping screen where we have our other mapping options. So you have column-based mapping or cell-based mapping, add long text. All those options that were there in the old version are still here on the mapping screen. So very similar. I can just map. I'm going to just do the run log. I'm going to drop that down in the column A, do material number, material description, and I'll throw in my weights here as well. Oops. Let's switch that here. Okay. And one nice thing about this, you notice in the old version of Transaction, you weren't really able to interact with the Excel file at all. You could select some things, but you couldn't type any data in. Here you can. So it's using the Excel file in its purest sense, where you can update things. You can save your Excel file. You can add a sheet. You can delete a sheet. You can rename it. All of those things that you can do in Excel with limited capabilities you can do here. So it's a little bit more interactive on the mapping pane. All right, so we've mapped our transaction script from Excel into the SAP area, into the mapping. So let's go ahead and save. So we're going to save our script. We want to save the data file path. We'll do studio data. Notice that there's no transaction or query folder. It's now just called Studio in your My Documents. And we will just go ahead and save those. So we can save the data file, we can save the script file, or we can just save both. So we'll just select the Save Both down here, and both of those items will be saved. So now I have an Excel file that's saved, my template, as well as the scripts. So now there's no going back and hitting the Run option. We just go to the Run screen, and now we're going to be able to run. It's almost like we're running from the Excel add-in at this point, but we're still running within the the Studio tool. So we have those options to write headers if we wanted to. If we wrote the headers, it would update this row again. If we wanted to do debug, this is where you're step-by-step. So they've changed the wording from step-by-step modes. It is now debug. So if you want to do a step-by-step playback, you would select the debug option, and then first row only. Or I want to do all the rows that I indicate in my start to end row. Test here, because I'm not running against the production environment, I'm running against the non-production environment. The button here says test. So this is your run now, that's run specified range, run and stop on errors, run on errors only, run only on process rows. So this is something a little new, run only on process rows. The only way you were able to do that previously is if you had the run only on process checkbox selected, and that was hiding in the advanced properties bar over on the right side of your screen, which a lot of people didn't even realize was there. So now they have a playback mode where you can just run only on process rows without having to check that property. Okay, so let's go ahead and we're just going to run this specified range. So we are going to be updating our Excel information over here, what sheet, the start row, the end row, the launch GUI. So it says start SAP GUI now instead of launch GUI. Backup SAP data was another feature as well. So many of these advanced features are shown right here on the screen, so they're more accessible. One complaint that we often found was like, hey, I didn't even know all these advanced features were there because they were on this little tiny bar on the right, and if your screen resolution wasn't set appropriately, you didn't even see that bar. So they're making it more visible, these properties to get to, and making them more available, so you're able to use those more frequently because you can see that they're there. Okay, so we're just going to go ahead and hit the test button. By hitting test, it's going to act as running all of them. If you wanted a different run mode, you could have selected the drop down and selected one of those other options, such as run on errors only, and so on. So you can see that it's writing the data, is working. I'm connected to that SAP environment, and so on. So it says no changes made. This is the one I was recording with. So we'll just do a new 2, and we'll run again. And now we should get a change in this case, since I did update some information on the description. Okay, and now that we see the materials changed. So if we want to say, my mapping's not right, something messed up, I can just quickly go to the mapping screen. I don't have to hit the button, wait for the links to pop up. I can quickly switch back and forth. Okay, so those are some of the nice features that I've noticed with the Winshuttle version 11. It's more of a unified, it's a developer tool. I can easily switch over to query if I wanted to do a new query to follow up with that. I could definitely do that without having to open up all the different bits of software that normally would have to do in the past. Okay, so from navigation, things look a little bit different. Properties are on the right. If you want to see the properties, you used to have to select something and then pop open the little properties menu again. Some people didn't even know they were there. So if I select a header, a screen header, I can use skip screen. It's enabled. I get more detailed information and I have more access to the notes. I can add notes on a line-by-line basis a little bit easier than I was able to do in the old version. They used to be hiding up here in the header, and you can always see too many of those items. Okay, so that's a quick glance on transaction. We'll just take a quick minute here to look at the webinar and see if anyone has a question. If there's any questions, feel free to type in those questions. Let me see if there are any out there right now. I will just wait 1 minute in case someone is popping one in there. Okay, don't see any right now, but we'll go ahead and continue on. If you do have a question, I can try to answer it, but feel free to type in the question section. So let's move on to the next portion. So we're going to do a new query. Again, we would just go to our same, we have our same desktop studio tool here. So we'll go to new, so file new, and I'd select query. Now I have many options here. Create from tables, info sets, create from recording. It's putting all of those options that are right in front of you, so to minimize the number of screens you have to step through to get to the information that you want. Okay, so once again, I'm already connected to SAP. If I was logged off, it'd prompt me to pick my SAP environment. How do I want to map? If I have an existing data file for mapping or not, and I click Create Script to begin. Okay, so this view looks a little bit different as well. So we have our workspace, we have criteria, runtime, and mapper. We also have a lot of items up across the top here as well. Some of them navigate you through the different space, so it's a little bit redundant on that aspect. So run, if you go to run, you can see more of the Excel file. If you're in the mapping area and you see runtime, you would see more of what the user would see when they go try to run it, almost like a little preview of the run screen, where the run menu up at the top, the run ribbon menu, gives you the Excel file. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at our workspace. We're going to add some tables to the workspace. So I'm just going to do a few tables here. And let's go ahead and add a second one. All right, so it again tries to join the tables like it used to together. So I added Mara and Mark to Material Master tables, and I get a little bit more easy to read set of information, and I automatically have the ability to search here at the top. Many people didn't know in the old version you have this scroll bar, so you can scroll down, but then you had this other menu in the way like we see here, so you try to move it up and shrink your table size. Well, you could right click on the old version, on version 10, 10.7, you could right click on it and select zoom on the table, and it would show you a list of all the fields in a more easy to read version of that, and then you could easily search by typing in search for the fields that you want. Well, they've eliminated the zoom feature and they've included that search capability right here at the top. So if I want to look at a field that says material number, I can start typing in material, and it brings in all of the fields that have in the description or the field name. So you have the first row is the field name, the second row is the field description. So it's filtering on all of those items just by me typing. Now I can also search for the technical side as well. So when I search for the technical name, it pops up. So I can as an output, or I can select as a criteria, and you can see as I'm selecting the checkboxes, the items pop up in those sections. So it's easier to see which ones am I putting out in my Excel file or my results and which ones are my criteria. Previously you had your long row of fields and you had to scroll down to see which ones you may be searching by as criteria. Now it's separated into two sections so you can easily see. So I'm going to bring in material type, material group, and then those will all be listed there as well. So I'm just going to do material number as my criteria, and let's bring in what plant as well. We're going to do an output of the plant. Okay, so you can expand this if you need to, if you want to bring it up to see more fields. Data preview would be if you ran a preview, your Excel file, search results, and so on. So you have a lot of options. It does take a little bit of getting used to with all of the menu options here. You have your ribbon here, you have options here, which seem to coincide with with these at the top, and you have items down here. So it does take a little bit getting used to understand where you want to go, but I still think it's a better user experience than the old tool, flipping back between mapping and recording and running and adding tables. You get to see all of that in one space now, which is nice. So I'm going to go to the runtime, and you can see at the runtime it gives you a preview of what it's going to look like. So I'm going to enter in one material here that I want to search by. And if I hit preview run, it's going to give me the results down here in the bottom section. Okay, so now it gave me the data preview. It's going to just give me the first number of results. It's not going to give, I believe it goes up to 100. They might return back up to 100 results of the data preview. The number of entries are shown. If you want to hit that, it'll do you a message of how many, so I found 5 of them total. So that's another feature that was there as well, but you get to see all of that at runtime. So I haven't even mapped anything yet, and I was able to do those previews, which was nice. So the mapping section, let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to do mapping. I'm just going to auto map. So I'm going to hit the auto map button up here. Okay, and it quickly mapped all of my fields for me. I'm going to go to the run screen, and I'm going to go ahead and run this query. Again, because I'm working against a non-production SAP environment, my button's going to say test. Okay, and it's prompting me to save everything because I haven't saved yet, so I'm just going to save both files, and it should begin the running process. Again, it'll prompt me for my selection criteria. and it'll start to generate the results. Okay, and here we have the 5 results that came back, just like we saw in the preview mode. Now, the one thing that Winshuttle has changed for version 11 is the function module as well. So when you install version 11 of the Studio tool, you want to make sure you're implementing version 11 of the function module as well. So in general, you want to make sure your function module version is going in sync with the desktop tools that you're using. Otherwise, some features may not be available. So in this case, in version 11 Studio, my SAP environment only has the version 10.7 function module, so I'm not able to use the long text features. So you want to make sure your function module is in sync with the version that you're using, and there are performance improvements within the function module for version 11. For the query side, it is showing quicker response times while downloading data. So your queries should run faster, getting your results back within a shorter amount of time, which is always a good thing. Okay, so those are some of the features here that we see with query. Again, a lot of the same options you had in the old tool, just shown a little bit differently. We have a lot of menus across the top. Again, if you wanted to view the properties, you could hide the properties. You could show the properties again on the side. So I'll take a quick peek here at the question log, see if anyone else has any additional questions. Okay, we do have one question. Is there a way to expand the workspace area to zoom in or zoom out? So there should be a full screen mode here. So if you go into View and hit full screen, it'll change the view and hide all of the properties in the mapping section so you can see more of a full view and you don't have to scroll down as much. You can't zoom in on the tables necessarily, so you can't make the tables bigger. You can stretch them around a little bit, but you can't zoom in to make the words bigger or anything like that. But you do have the full screen mode, and if you deselect the full screen mode, you get all of the menus back. You could easily do that by selecting, I don't want to see the data set and all these checkboxes, but by simply hitting the full screen view, you quickly get that, and you can see it unselected all of the checkboxes, and once you select full screen, it rechecks them all. So that's just a quick way to do that. So very good question. All right, let's take a look to see if there are any other items here in the question box. Okay. All right, so that wraps up our demonstration of how query is going to look in the version 11. And you can do the same thing here again. We have, if you hit File New, you have your direct options. It's going to ask me to save my script again since I messed around with my query script. So if I hit direct, there's only one way to create a direct script, and that's from a BAPI, and then you could type in the BAPI name. So I won't go through that because we've gone through the transaction and query side of things, but the idea is you're getting the same type of feel from one tool to the next, all within one unified development tool. Okay, so that's going to wrap up our session for today, and we went through the question and answer here, and yeah, so our next one I don't have, I messed up here on the presentation, but let me take a quick look and see when the next WEBtips is going to be. So we are generally running on the third Thursday of the month. So for October, that's going to be October 20th. So if you haven't done so, feel free to sign up for the webinar for the forms and workflow. They are separate webinar links, so if you need that, feel free to contact us and we can send you that link, or it's on our website at clearprocesssolutions.com. Look under events. And you can register for the webinars there. So the webinars are different links, so if you're only a desktop user, get the calendar invites for all the foundation items as well. All right, so I think one more question came in here, a couple more questions. All right, we are on 10.5 foundation, want to upgrade. Do you recommend just to 11 or 10.7? Okay, so if you're using Foundation, I'm assuming that means you're also using the forms and workflow. So if you're using the Foundation, you have to wait to version 11.1. 11.1 is the first version of version 11 that will allow you to migrate and use the new version 11 tools. So version 11.0 of Foundation is for new customers. So if you just bought Foundation, you'd be able to use 11.0. But you have to wait till 11.1 to upgrade. So 11.0 is not upgradable. There's no way to upgrade to it. You have to wait till 11.1, then you can upgrade to that. I'm a fan of always being on the latest and greatest versions because you get a lot of new features with that. So I have not had the chance to use 11.1 yet because it's not out. They're still in beta testing. But if you wanted to upgrade now, 10.7 does have a lot of great features. Foundation, I believe, the workflow version is 10.9 for Foundation. You get the composer tools. You get performance improvements from a forms and workflow perspective. Transaction, you get a few more items. But so if you can wait till 11.1 for a little bit, that'd be great because you're going to get a lot of additional features. But not every organization allows you to upgrade all of the time. So if you're limited and only had a window now, upgrading to 10.7 would be a very great step. So 10.7 would be the desktop tools. 10.9 would be the workflow version that's available as well. A lot of great features in those releases compared to 10.5, absolutely. But if you can hold out, and if you have the window to wait a little bit for upgrading, I think 11.1 is going to be pretty great. All right. Okay, so we have a question here related to a particular T code. The question is, in CA02, how do you select the last line of data when updating CA02? Well, there's a couple different ways that you can do that. So I'm going to jump into SAP here, and we will do the best to answer this question on the fly. And we'll go from there. All right, now let's see if I can find the bill of materials somewhere, just by luck. Oh, that's it's CA02. Yes, that's routings. Okay, so let me change my stream of thought here. Hopefully this material has a routing. If not, I could try to find one or create one real quick. Okay, so unless you're going to use GUI scripting where you could scroll down, so with GUI scripting you could use this little scrolly bar here and then you would do the index function to see if one of these items has any information on it. So in the in the change mode, all of these items are going to have operations here just like you see. So you don't want to do your on index of, you don't want to check the index of the operation because they're all going to be filled in. But Work Center is a required field, I believe. So you could see using GUI scripting, you could use the index feature to see where the first one is. But if you don't have access to GUI scripting, you can use the entry key down here. So if you go, I'm just going to take a guess. I haven't done this for a while, but if I put in a number 4, because there are 4 line items here, and I hit enter, it should bring that 4th line up to the very beginning. So if you know how many records are, maybe you've done a query to see how many, you know what the last row is or how many rows there are, you can do it that way. But let's try a different method. I'm just going to take a shot here and see if this works. So sometimes when you're searching for these lists or multiple rows of items, if you put in the largest number that you think is possible, oftentimes it'll just take you to the last one. So I know there's only 4 items here, but I'm going to put in a 99. I could put in maybe a 999. We'll just go with 99 and see what happens. So this is just a guess, and we'll go from here. So 99, then hit enter. Okay, and sure enough, it brought the last line up. Now you can select it. So this is something that's repeatable. So when you want to look for the last line, you don't know where the last line is, because that's why I'm guessing why you're asking the question. But in this case, you can use CA02, and if the last line was, line 140, you go up to 99, maybe however many you want to go up, but make your number high enough to go beyond the number of rows you expect. It'll bring that last line up to the beginning. Now you can select it, double click on it, get the details if you want, do component allocation, whatever actions you want to do. Okay, so that's a good tip right there for CA02. All right, let me go back to the questions here. All right, well, that's the last question I saw. So we'll give you some time back. Thanks again for joining our September edition of WEBtips. Hope to see you again in October for those foundation folks, or even if you're just interested in learning about forms and workflow if you don't have it. All right, well, thanks again, everybody, and enjoy the rest of your day. The recording of the session will be out on our site relatively soon. Thank you very much. Have a great day.